So, welcome to a very special edition of the We Are Mission podcast, and I'm joined by John and Brian from Sancta Familia Media. John and Brian, thanks very much for joining us here today. I say joining us, I am actually using Sancta Familia's lovely studio here today, so thanks for letting us use that, guys. For people who don't know about you, can you just give us a wee bit about your background? You know, did you come from kind of a typical traditional Catholic family? Did the faith play a big part in your life in an early age? And, you know, some of the things you've done before you actually got to Sancta Familia Media.
Yeah, so we're both cousins and we're both from Catholic families, brought up very much in the faith, church every Sunday, our grandparents as well, all very much involved in the faith. All through kind of childhood and things, taken to like Lourdes. My grandmother, John's the same as well. Yep. So very much Catholic upbringing, Catholic families.
Yep, it's always been part of our lives. You know, the fact we're here just now in this studio is our parish church. This is where we both made our sacraments. We both grew up. Primary school next door as well, so it's we've not gone very far that way. The primary school is next door, but we're still here. So it's always been our presence, and we're quite glad just now we can work for that.
Excellent. And so what were some of the things you were interested in growing up? Was media always something you were interested in, or did you have different kind of academic paths?
Well, yeah, media certainly in kind of childhood. When we were both younger, we did a lot of kind of videos, just wee YouTube videos and things back to 2006, 2007. So we always kind of had made kind of wee silly videos and things like that. And then it kind of developed more into the kind of religious aspect in 2009 when our parish here was celebrating its 125th anniversary. So around that time, the parish priest here, Father Grant, we'd spoke to him about producing a DVD and interviewing parishioners and things. So about that time, we did quite a lot of work here in the church producing that video, and that was our first kind of step kind of in this direction of kind of Sancta Familia Media.
Okay.
Now our grandfather, Mallon, he was quite big in cinefilm and filming and documenting things, so we've always kind of grown up with that kind of aspect of family films being in the background. And my father as well, of course, loved filming us as children, so borrowing his camera, using his camera was a great fun thing to do. So that naturally progressed, and of course it was my daddy that first said, put your wee sketches on YouTube, this new thing called YouTube. Never heard of it. So it was very, very early on, 2006, we started putting videos on YouTube, and some of them went viral, and we got a lot of attention in school for it. My daddy, who's a teacher, got a lot of negative attention in school from his pupils, but it kind of inspired us to show what the potential was and what was there. But from there, I went on to university, and we kind of didn't have enough time to dedicate to doing that and growing it as much.
So what did you do at university then?
So I studied languages at Glasgow, French and Spanish, and then did a master's afterwards as well.
And I was probably a bit closer to film work. I was computing at UWS Hamilton.
A question that you probably do get asked a lot of the time because you work in a faith environment is, did any of you ever consider a vocation to the priesthood?
Yeah, that's certainly the case for me, yeah. I always thought I'd be a priest when I was younger, always considered it quite heavily, and maybe could call me one of those perpetual discerners. You know, I was always saying maybe not this year, maybe next year, I'll try and do it. So I went to university, went abroad, and it was still kind of there, but I thought we'll wait till we'll see what happens. I've still got to consider the vocation of marriage as well. That's a possibility. You can't be married if you're a priest. So I kind of let that go a wee bit on the slide, and this is where our apostolate came in and started working for the church. And with the increase in that work, that kind of thought of becoming a priest kind of resided a bit more, because we're with the church every day, doing things for the church every day that maybe couldn't be possible if I had to dedicate 7 years to seminary.
Yeah, not so much for me.
Fair enough. I know myself, like when I was growing up, I was very, taken by the saints and things like that. Is there a kind of saint that you guys hold dear, or a scripture passage that you hold dear from childhood or even into adulthood?
Well, St. Therese probably. St. Therese, didn't know much about St. Therese particularly. I knew my nana had a kind of devotion to St. Therese, and it was really when we started producing a project on the life of St. Therese. It was for our relics arriving in Scotland, and we went out with Father Grant out to Lisieux and visited a lot of the places associated with her life that kind of formed a kind of devotion to her. Our grandmother, when she was young, had taken TB and had been in the hospital for over a year, and Canon Taylor from Carfin had visited her and brought her his translation of his book on St. Therese, or St. Therese's Life's translation, and I think that kind of gave her a devotion to St. Therese, where she obviously read the book and then she'd recovered from that. So certainly St. Therese.
It's a great question about saints. There's so many of them, and it's hard to pinpoint one because at different times you come across different ones. Brian's covered St. Therese, but I think St. Columba for me is probably one of the ones I find really inspiring. The fact that, you know, there's a tangible link with him in Scotland and Iona. It combines both my heritage in Ireland and Scotland. But also the fact that he had a checkered past as well. You know, he was someone who made mistakes in Ireland and had to leave his country because of the mistakes he made. That inspires me because it gives everybody here hope. You know, we're not all saints ourselves, we're saints in the making. So it shows you that from a dire situation, and we're not all as bad as St. Columba, we haven't waged war on someone, but we make mistakes, and there are hope for being turning it around and becoming a saint.
Excellent. So guys, you mentioned a wee bit briefly about the start of Sancta Familia Media and how, John, your dad was a wee bit of a catalyst or a wee bit of an inspiration. Can you just expand upon that a wee bit and why you decided to set up your own media organisation?
Well, as I say, it was back in 2009. We made this history DVD for the parish here in Moss End, and it extraordinarily took off. People really liked it, and we kind of thought at the time, well, we've done a good job here. More priests were saying to us just after it, maybe do one for my parish, but as I say, we were at university and we had to focus on that. So it was only really after university, when we were doing a bit more around the parish, that Father Grant said maybe you could put some videos on the website, and we filmed Benediction, which was beautiful down here, and it's a beautiful church if you're ever in it, Holy Family in Moss End, and the actual aesthetics of it lend to nice videos. So we started doing that for the website, and it was after a discussion with Megan, one of the parishioners here as well, that we thought we'll set up a parish Facebook. A lot of parishes were doing it, so we set one up, and that was a kind of conduit for our videos to be seen by wider people. So we started putting them on, and more hits were coming through, and then more requests were coming through from other parishes to do things, so we were quite surprised by that, and we happily did it at the weekends at night, but then by that point we were working together, different places, so we had to juggle and balance. Yeah. So over that year in 2015, 2016, more and more requests are coming in, and we thought we need to do something here to alleviate the time restraints. Do we both quit our jobs that we weren't enjoying anyway? So that's how it kind of started professionally.
Excellent. Just in terms of entering into that environment, what were your first impressions of working in a media environment?
Yeah, it was quite interesting. I mean, a lot of the things we were doing was different things every single day.
Every day's different. I mean, that's the thing. Some days you're in a church recording a funeral or a wedding, a documentary, interviewing people, or you've been sent to Uganda like Brian was.
That's right, yeah. That's true as well, yeah.
So it's been good.
So you've mentioned some of them, but what have been the most memorable stories that you've worked on so far with Sancta Familia?
Some of the kind of documentaries we've done have been great. Obviously, John mentioned Uganda there as well. Uganda was just an incredible experience, one of those kind of once in a lifetime experiences to see things. Some of the kind of documentary things as well. So the life story of St. Therese, that was just great producing that. That was great fun because we visited all these different places, and I think we got a man in Lisieux who took us into these different sites that maybe aren't normally open to the public that often, associated with her life. So things like that are just, it's great having access to these places and getting to learn about the stories and things. But as well, things like the relics visits. So obviously the St. Therese relics visit, and then more recently the St. Bernadette relics visit. Just filming the atmosphere of these things is just fantastic, great.
Mm-hmm. And in 2018 we did a big education video. So that was to mark the 100 years of Catholic Education Act, which essentially brought Catholic schools into the mainstream under government control in a sense. But that was really good because we were allowed to travel around every school in Scotland almost. It was 30 schools we covered, up and down every diocese. And it was just great to witness the faith life of those schools, but also talking to the pupils as well about their faith. And it was a really, really good time doing that, you know.
I know, and I guess your output has always been very professional from the outset, but what are some of the kind of main lessons that you've learned, you know, in your time?
Quite a lot. We're learning every day. I mean, we've never been trained in this. We're not perfect in it. And when you come to the cold face of social media, people are very quick to tell you when you go wrong with certain things, which is fine. I mean, no problem at all. From a technical side point of view, we're always trying to improve our technology. We're always trying to improve our live streams, improve our broadcasts, for the ultimate aim of the glorification of God and His church. That's the aim. You know, Sister Azanne always speaks about how the church doesn't do things well a lot of the times when presenting itself, and that's been our aim, to do things well, to present the faith and give it a good write up, you know. So that's been one of the challenges, to maintain that level of professionalism but also quality as, you know, things get more advanced over time.
Yeah, you learn as you go. So with the technology, when you have problems with things, so problems with microphones or cameras going wrong or getting the wrong angles or not in the right place, you kind of learn as you go along and try and improve over time.
So guys, you are now fully fledged, you know, media professionals now. What would you say are the most important qualities that someone working in the media has to have?
Perseverance. You're going to need a thick skin. People are going to see you online, and whether they're Catholic, whether they're not, and they're going to project their biases onto you. So they're going to think, well, he stands for this, he stands for that, he represents this, he represents that, and they don't really know who you are as a person. So you've got to have that kind of detachment from what you're doing, representing things. But also you have to be aware that when we're doing what we're doing, it's a 24-hour job. Because, to give an example, there was a time when certain things were posted online and I fell asleep. I fell asleep for 2 hours. I woke up to a barrage of phone calls saying this comment's on here, this comment's on there. And it just kind of drummed home to me the fact that we need to be on the ball 24/7 here, because it's such a big page. You know, so many people following us that certain threads and comments can get out of line and things, so you've got to try and be on the ball. So we do try and moderate, and it needs to be 24/7.
You do sometimes miss things, so sometimes someone will write something and you've not seen it. And someone else brings it to your attention, and then people can be quite angry that someone's written something and think, well, why have you not deleted that, or why are you not, you know, and that sort of thing. But yes, you've just got to be very careful that way.
Well, so having run Sancta Familia for well over a decade,
7 years.
Is it? Sorry, I was counting back to 2009. Sorry, so when you were talking, yeah, I'm giving you more kudos here. So you'll have seen a lot of the kind of positive and negative aspects. What are some of the positive and negative aspects of working within the media?
Positive aspects is that you meet a wide variety of people. Great experiences, you talk to people, you see different things. You see a side of the church which you wouldn't normally see as being a parishioner in a parish. You see every aspect of it, for all the agencies, you see all the good charity works, you see individuals who are outstanding examples of living the Catholic faith. Negatives, you can sometimes be very quickly absorbed into the nitty-gritty of petty parochialism, which can sometimes occur in churches. That is always to be avoided.
Yeah, probably just echo much the same there. Yeah.
In terms of, it's something I've obviously experienced before, but when you're working in a specifically Catholic framework in the media, do you find that challenging? Like you maybe have to be very careful with what you say and what you do and what you put out and things like that?
At all times I've always felt kind of guided by my faith, and also by the morals that I've led my life in, that to post things with the right intention. You know, I think that's always a key thing. If you do something with the right intention for the good of the church and for the good of souls, then I don't see how you can go wrong. You know, of course there's going to be people who don't agree with teachings of the Catholic Church and struggle with it, but I think a lot of that is down to the way it's presented and the way that it's communicated. I think there's methods to talk about the Catholic faith and talk about the difficult hot potato issues in a way that is understandable and reasonable, and that we do have faith and reason as Catholics. We're not blind faith believers. We're not people who just believe, or we're cafeteria Catholics who pick and choose. You look at the faith in its entirety and understand why it teaches that for the reason it teaches it.
Yeah, I mean, people will obviously, when you're putting these videos and things online, people will obviously disagree with you at times, and you've just got to allow for that and be respectful in how you kind of respond to them. Just put across your point as well as you can, and just be respectful if someone does disagree with you.
I mean, in terms of that, you know, you guys have definitely filled a gap in Catholic media in Scotland. I think that's fair to say. And obviously that gap's got a wee bit wider since the demise of the Scottish Catholic Observer, and the fact that the Scottish Catholic has kind of went online and things like that. Just how important do you think it is for people to support Catholic media?
I think it's very important. I think I said at the time when the Catholic Herald and the new iteration of it, the Scottish Catholic, went down in January there, that it's a big loss for the church. We need printed media, we need video media, we need all of our efforts going towards evangelisation. And the fact that this the Scottish Catholic was independent is important as well, because yeah, it's good that the church do officially run things, but I think you need independent voices of lay Catholics as well to talk about and present their issues that are of interest. That's healthy, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, it was awful when obviously the Scottish Catholic Observer having run for, I mean, how many years? Forever, really.
It's 1885, I think.
Yeah. It was terrible when that then disappeared from that kind of media landscape of the Catholic Church in Scotland. And then obviously the Catholic magazine not having that in print as well is, it really is a kind of disaster for the Church in Scotland to not have that there, that's presence.
And so, well, a lot of your work is obviously done through social media and things like that, and you spoke about some of the difficulties you've had, but obviously you've got your Instagram, your Facebook, Twitter, or whatever it's called now, X, TikTok and things like that. Do you think social media has been beneficial over the piece?
For the church or for us?
Just in terms of, well, both actually, in terms of Catholic media and wider media as well.
I think it has. I think it's brought to attention that, there's, when the Catholic Observer was there, it did serve a purpose for a certain clientele, but that clientele wouldn't necessarily be outside the church. So when it comes to social media, there is no, the way it works in the algorithms, there's no walls to it. For example, if you put a post up about an event with St. Therese, for example, or the other day, the Cyril Malabars in Blantyre, that in the past might necessarily have been one picture on a page of a paper in some grandmother's living room, whereas now it goes viral online. People who are not of the faith or maybe not practicing the faith see it, and maybe sparks an interest. So I think it has been beneficial in some ways, and it can be used for good.
Yeah, I mean, there are downsides as well, but I mean, the positives of it, I think, outweigh that. So obviously, as John's saying, they've been able to reach people that you wouldn't reach with a paper. So a Catholic paper, you're not going to reach people who aren't Catholic or haven't come into a church, or who don't have access to that really. Whereas on social media, you're going directly to people of, a wide range of audience now, because it's not just younger people using social media. Yeah. There obviously is that kind of difference in generations there. So being able to just get information directly to someone is obviously a massive benefit. I
mean, look at the recent events in Lisbon, for example. It was a shame that the BBC did not report hardly any of it. If you were relying on traditional media in this country, you would think nothing happened. But yet we're talking about the largest crowd ever in the history of Portugal gathering. I mean, that's an astonishing figure. What did the BBC focus on? They focused on the Jamboree with the Scouts with 45,000 people. And we're talking about 1.5 million people. I think someone remarked to me at the time that there was more Scouts in Lisbon, Catholic Scouts, than there was at the Jamboree, whoever it was in South Korea or whatever. But that just shows you how we need to cut out sometimes the middleman who doesn't want to tell our story, who doesn't want to report good things about the church, wants to focus on the negative. And the evidence that we had from World Youth Day, we had over 1.5 million people engage with us in that week. Yeah. So I think the traditional media missed a trick reporting that, and people went to us to see it.
And in terms of that, like I said, your digital media output is really, really good. But a lot of the time, parishioners in churches, they're maybe more senior, they're maybe more used to things that are in print. How do you manage to get all your stuff out to the widest audience possible, including the kind of more senior audience who have been used to that?
Yeah, it's funny, we always look at, as part of our work, we always look at analytics. So we're not just stabbing in the dark here, we look at analytics as well. And it does seem that Facebook is hitting the people that you mentioned there. We have people who are over 60, we have people who are, some people write to us are in their 90s, who watch our stuff. So of course there's people who maybe are not so adept to technology, who maybe miss out on it. And that's a shame, they don't have the print media. But I think we managed to cover with our bases with YouTube, TikTok, Facebook. There's a different age set across that. So you've got the older ones on Facebook, the younger ones on TikTok, and a mix.
And what's the easiest and the hardest to use? Because TikTok, it seems like you have to get somebody's attention really quickly.
What do you think?
I mean, well, TikTok, I think you've got to get someone's attention quickly, yeah. It's maybe a different audience in TikTok, a much younger audience. And again, we were talking about maybe reaching people that aren't Catholic. I think TikTok probably does that better. It reaches people that necessarily don't follow your page, unlike Facebook or YouTube. Facebook particularly just really reaches your followers, maybe slightly beyond people sharing posts. YouTube's more direct to people that subscribe to you. TikTok definitely reaches people a lot further afield.
And see, in terms of when you're talking about the different audiences and things like that, and the videos that you put out, it's one thing I'm always very conscious of, even doing the podcasts, that there's going to be a lot of good information, but how do you get people to listen to the whole thing or to watch the whole video? How, when you've looked at the analytics, how do you get people to do that?
Well, hopefully people listening to this are still tuned in and they're not falling asleep. So if they have, apologies. If they've not, well, goodbye, see you later on. I think that you've got to focus on quality. You've got to focus on the idea that there's going to be something coming up that's of use to them. So why would someone listen to content if it's going to be perceived as boring, as dull? Mix it up a bit. If you're going to have like a video hour lecture of one camera fixing someone, they might expect that for the whole time. Some people watch it, but not everyone. So you've got to make sure that, for example, like the St. Trez video we did, it's dynamic, it's engaging, different voices are on it, there's music to carry it through. These sort of things work, You're
capturing people's attention in that first 10, 20 seconds.
Yeah.
So you've got to make the first 10, 20 seconds really interesting, kind of eye-catching. So in terms of video, different shots, maybe cuts of different people talking, just to give a kind of flavour of what's throughout the rest of the video or whatever. So you've got to just get their attention straight away.
And guys, like you've grown Sancta Familia so much in the years that you've been involved here. What do you envisage for the future? What would you like Sancta Familia to do going forward?
Just basically keep growing as much as we can. I mean, obviously we'd like to reach further afield, grow the numbers of followers, and just produce good content as well as we can.
Yeah, I think we want to be there for the big moments in the church's history. We're coming up to the Jubilee year. We're coming up to lots of different occasions, which, covering like the funeral of Pope Benedict was a momentous occasion. Hopefully one day perhaps we'll cover a conclave or, maybe meet the Pope at some point in time, whether it's Francis or his successor, who knows. But we're happy to be there in the church and just go as far as we can go. Leave it in God's hands. Excellent.
Now I'm going to take you a wee bit into my wheelhouse here, and we're going to talk a wee bit about mission, which, Brian, we're going to touch on your trip to Uganda, which you mentioned earlier. But guys, in terms of the term mission itself, what does it mean to you?
Yeah, just reaching out to people.
Well, as a linguist, it means sent, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
So you're sent. So everyone who's Catholic has a vocation, whether it's marriage, whether it's priesthood, whether it's a single life, but they've been sent by God to do something specific. So everyone's got a mission.
Absolutely. And Brian, like we said, you travelled to Uganda with Missio Scotland a few years back. What was your experience like, and what did you learn from travelling to a mission country?
It was an incredible experience, really. It was something I wasn't really prepared for, I don't think, beforehand. Just to see a lot of the projects that were supported by Missio Scotland it was incredible. I mean, some of the kind of highlights, so to speak, of that was things like visiting the School for the Deaf, Malago School for the Deaf, and just seeing these people that were in, real poverty, terrible poverty, and some kind of terrible cases of children just being abandoned by their parents and left because of maybe disabilities or whatever. But to see how the support of things like Missio Scotland reach out to these people and can change their life. And there's a lot of these people that you would look at and you'd say they've got nothing, but they were happy. they had happiness and joy with them. So seeing projects like that out in Uganda was just incredible. I mean, things as well, like we visited ordinations as well. I think there was an ordination, it was 5 priests or a few deacons, or it was something like that. And just the happiness and joy amongst, poverty there was really, really touching.
That was a long day. I think that it was like 6 hours long.
It was, yeah.
Every politician in Uganda came to speak, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, I remember that well. Obviously, with the podcast and things like that, the idea is to shine a light on not just missionaries in the traditional sense, but you guys are obviously missionaries, I'd say, within the Catholic media environment and things like that as well. How does Sancta Familia try and kind of shine a light on missionaries too?
I think we've covered over the course, not aside from the stuff directly with Missio we've done, I think we covered the course of different orders who've done many different things. We covered the anniversary of Sister Stacey's previous order with the Peter Claver and how they were doing their work from here, sending out various documents and things. That's the idea of saving souls with a drop of ink. It was their kind of charism in a sense. Well, we cover all sorts of things. We worked with the Holy Ghost Fathers. Just the other day, for example, we covered Father Paddy Gaffney's 60th Jubilee as a priest. And what was really amazing about that was, it was in the hospital, we filmed it, but they had Nigerians there from a church that he'd built. So the fruits of mission, of what he did years and years ago, are still blossoming. So it shows you that from tiny seeds there can be great trees growing.
Yeah, I mean, Father Paddy's thing, the lady that had travelled over, obviously, was still very, very thankful. And you could see the emotion. I think she was getting quite tearful. So it just shows you that the work of the missionaries, it lasts a long time.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with that. When we think in Scotland, I think about missionaries, we often think about it in the traditional sense. We think about priests and religious that are working abroad, sort of thing. But obviously, a lot of the time when you speak to a missionary, they say, it's all of our duty to be missionaries. We're all part of the mission and things like that. What do you think the best way that people in Scotland can live out their mission and be missionaries is?
Well, I think in some sense Scotland is mission territory, isn't it? I think we're getting to the stage now where a vast majority of young people are not professing a faith. They don't have a faith. I think it's a duty for all Catholics to witness to their own faith in society, being part of society. And we saw the recent kind of debate with the Scottish leadership for the First Minister. We had Kate Forbes versus Humza Yousaf. Kate Forbes receiving a lot of negative media attention for simply being a Christian. That would have been inspiring for some people because she stood up. Okay, we're not members of the Free Church or share entirely her belief, but the fact she stood up and wore her belief on her shoulder is something that Catholics should take great example for. That we shouldn't be ashamed of our faith. We should live in the public life and be proud of our faith, and that's how you be a missionary in Scotland today.
Yeah, I mean, your missionary work doesn't have to be to far-flung countries around the world necessarily. That there are people on your doorstep that do maybe need your help or do need encouraged in their faith as well.
Yeah, and in terms of the course of your work that you've just touched on there, you've maybe come into contact with lapsed Catholics or people who aren't Catholics at all. What's their kind of reaction been? Has there ever been something that's been a big change that's came across and they've said, I've watched one of your videos, I've heard something you've said and it's really either maybe brought me back to the church or attracted me to the Catholic Church?
I hear that a lot. Obviously I won't go into the specifics of individual stories because they're private messages I get, but yeah, I do get that quite a lot. People messaging me out and saying thanks for this video, it's made me reconsider. And to be honest, it's not up to me to make someone reconsider their faith. I'm just presenting the faith as I believe it. If they think that's relevant to their life, great. I'm not going to dilute or going to dull down the message. I'm just going to present it as it is and let God do the rest.
Yeah, I mean, it's like showing things that are happening in the church in a positive way. Sometimes that does just resonate with someone or someone that's watching these things and maybe has a different view of the church from what they actually see. Sometimes that just kind of captures someone and plants a seed there. Yeah.
Well, in terms of not mentioning specific stories, but has there been specific projects or videos that you've done that has had a lot of feedback in that sense?
I think it's just over the course. I would say there's been a lot of interest. I think the relics visit helped quite a lot with people seeing the actual piety. We're very Scottish people and maybe Irish people to a certain extent are much more kind of reserved when it comes to talk about their faith and public displays of it. when St Teresa's relics and St Bernadette's relics came, there was an outpouring of public veneration, of piety, and that maybe enkindled the faith in others. I think we've seen a big increase then of people being interested.
Yeah. Yes, people maybe brought people along to like the relics visit as well, and that would encourage people that maybe hadn't been to church in a long time. But I think as well, things like World Youth Day recently, when people say there isn't many young people in the church, I think that does give people hope and inspires people to see so many young people all gathered together celebrating their faith.
Yeah, absolutely. Just getting back, I guess, to Missio Scotland, and it's always had, it's important throughout Scotland, but it's always had a very special place in the hearts of Motherwell Diocese and things like that. So you guys would maybe be able to answer this question a bit more fully. Why do you think it's important to support the work of Missio Scotland and its partners throughout the world and the Pontifical Mission Societies?
I think just because you see the work that they do, you see the fruits of the work they do. So, I mean, I've seen it from my own eyes in Uganda. You see the difference that their work makes in people's life. So a small sacrifice in someone's life in Scotland, giving maybe £10, £5 a month or something, can make a massive difference to someone's life in some of these other countries. And when you actually see the projects and you see the fruit of that, it really is encouraging.
Yeah. I kind of thought I had as well, is you have this talk about why we're supporting the church abroad, not the church here. But it really is, it's one church, and what you're going to see in future is that with the downcrease of vacations, you're going to see more of the fruits of the mission territory coming back here to support us. So, for example, our priest here is trying to get a break and holiday just now, and it's struggling to get it because there's so little covering priests. But I think what you'll see now is that when the missions are supported, you'll see a flourishing vacations, and they'll come back here and serve this country. So it's money well spent. Yeah,
and just in terms of vocations, actually, it's an interesting wee sidebar. What was your opinion on things like priest school? Do you think that was something positive that the traditional media had done to tap into, Catholic media?
It was good because we actually supplied some footage to that show, and it was a kind of way to show that they were just ordinary guys, but they had a great calling in life, and it kind of took away a lot of that. What is seminary like? People have this vision of it. It kind of broke down the barriers. But I thought it was a great show. The fact it's been repeated so many times is certainly kudos to the team that made it, Solace Productions.
Yeah. And is that something that you've had, do you get a lot of interaction with traditional media? Do they come to you looking for kind of Catholic perspectives or footage or different things like that?
Yeah, they do. They come quite a lot. Sometimes it's not always positive, but they come for questions, and I'm quite happy to talk to them. There's no problem at all.
Yeah. And just kind of finally, why do you think it's important to highlight the work of missionaries specifically in Catholic media through things like the podcast or a lot of the work that you guys do?
I think it's just showing that work. So people are going to be asked to help out with funding or whatever, or help out even with prayers, but to actually show them where that goes and to show them the fruits of that, I think it's probably important. Yeah, I think people don't realise that there's such a wide church beyond a parish or a diocese, and there's so much great things going on. Absolutely, I 100% encourage everyone who's watching or listening to back Missio and the work they do, the great work they do.
Excellent. And guys, just I said finally there, but this is actually the real finally. What I usually do with some of the guests in the podcast is I ask them to tell our viewers and our audience and things like that, and the people that are listening, something about themselves that they might not know, other people might not know. So
quite a lot.
Do you have a special skill, a special talent? For example, we had Sister Plasta who said that she does Doris Day impersonations, which was completely new to me, and she never gave us photographic evidence or anything, but it was really interesting. It's really interesting to get a wee bit of background. So is there any kind of special skills, hobbies, talents?
You can go first, he's got more hobbies than me.
I don't know, we have to begin with that. Yeah, I like quite a lot of kind of craft works and things, so I've been doing a lot of work, well, recently actually building reliquaries and doing wood carvings and things, so I've been doing quite a bit of that, which is great fun.
I suppose a lot of people, the thing is, I put a lot of stuff online about myself, people probably see it anyway, so but I speak several languages, that's probably one of the things.
Fantastic. Guys, thanks very much for your time speaking to us, because I know that you're very, very busy guys, so thanks again.
Thank you. Thanks very much.
Missio Scotland is the Scottish branch of the Pontifical Mission Societies, the Pope's official charity for overseas mission. To learn more about the work of Missio Scotland, you can visit our website www.missioscotland.com. You can like us on Facebook, www.facebook.com/Missio Scotland. You can also follow us on Twitter, Missio_Scotland, and on Instagram, Missio Scotland. If you would like to donate to Missio Scotland, visit www.missioscotland.com/donate. You can also call us on 01236 449 774 or send donations to Missio Scotland, 4 Laird Street, Coatbridge, ML5 3LJ. Please keep us in your prayers. Thank you and God bless.